I'm going to tell you the other side of the Nico Iamaleava story, because there's an interesting situation here that a lot of people may not be aware of, but just in case people aren't aware, one of the people close to Nico Iamaleava is legendary NFL wide receiver TJ Houshmandzadeh, who has his own show on Fox right now. TJ Houshmandzadeh, who was a Pro Bowler, played for the Bengals, the Seahawks, the Ravens, and the Raiders. He's very tight with the Nico Iamaleava family. He has come out and he has said, and we have to be fair and give both sides here. He's saying Tennessee is lying about the Nico Iamaleava situation. He's saying flat out they are not being upfront about everything that happened. I'm going to play a quick clip from TJ Houshmandzadeh. This is a YouTube short about what TJ Houshmandzadeh is saying that Tennessee is doing. I'm just going to tell you, this is where there's a little more interesting. This adds a little more of a wrinkle to what was happening, and you can tell me if you think this makes him look worse or better, honestly, because I'm debating with myself on this. But this is what TJ Houshmandzadeh said just recently about the whole situation. This is a quote from him.
Two practices, and that Nico had ultimately opened up negotiations in terms of what it was going to cost for him to play for Tennessee.
And that's false.
Okay.
They're lying. Tennessee's lying. And they probably like, damn, hope nobody comes up and disputes this.
Okay.
But they're lying.
All right.
And I know this is fact, not as
well, we know you know
speculation.
him. We know you know him, know the family or whatever. So go ahead, let us know.
My thing is this, right? So ask Tennessee, when's the last time they spoke to anybody on Nico's side? Well, I'll answer that for you. January. So what are y'all negotiating? When was the negotiations taking place? When the last time y'all spoke to anybody on his side, it was in January. And here we are in April. So your negotiations starting in January, there's been no more communication since then? Like, come on.
Now, TJ Houshmandzadeh has also gone on to say that, and I'm going to give you guys the full report, according to TJ Houshmandzadeh and according to people close to Nico, they wanted Josh Heupel to tweak his offensive system for Nico Iamaleava. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on here, guys. And this is according to TJ Houshmandzadeh, but I can tell you from sources I know inside the program, it's not starting with him. Former players that play for Tennessee that are in the NFL have been coming back and telling people that Josh Heupel's system did not prepare them for the pros. Now, this isn't a shock to those of us who know the ins and outs of football. So for those who don't understand, it's twofold. Josh Heupel's receivers are expected to react to what the secondary does and anticipate where the quarterback's going to expect them to be. They get multiple route options. Neither of the routes are the types of routes you run in the NFL. Okay. On top of that, the quarterbacks are coached to just read one side of the field, something they would never do in the NFL. He's taking advantage of the wide hash marks in college, and he's using the wide splits, okay? Reportedly, Nico Iamaleava's team wanted Josh Heupel to include more pro-style elements into his offense to help prepare him and his receivers for the NFL, because that has been a problem for Tennessee. Now, you can feel however you want to feel about that. And I got my own thoughts, and I'll get to those in a second. But TJ Houshmandzadeh is making it clear that beyond just a little more help, Nico Iamaleava wanted Tennessee to change its offensive system a little bit. I'm going to do a super chat real quick from Timothy McGee from the past, where he says, we as adults have failed these kids. The NIL, the open portal, have these players run away like cowards if they don't get their way. Timothy, I agree, but I also think I think it's the adults forcing them to run away like cowards. Let's just put that out there. So I can't fully put this on the kids at this point if Nico's dad is going to pull this. But so back to the point, according to some people, Tennessee, and again, you take what you want out of this, okay? But Tennessee, according to some people, had been planning to tweak their offense a little bit to help quarterbacks and players prepare for the NFL. Now, here's the reason that's hard for me to fathom, and I'm going to respond to TJ Houshmandzadeh on this. Nico Iamaleava knew that when he committed to Tennessee. Josh Heupel's offense is not a new phenomenon. Now, yes, it took college football by fire in 2021 and then 2022 with Hendon Hooker. But when Nico committed to Tennessee, Josh Heupel had already been in Tennessee for a year. Hendon Hooker had already put up some video game numbers, even though Tennessee was 7-6. Josh Heupel had spent 3 years at UCF, 1 year going undefeated. He had been Missouri's offensive coordinator for 2 years, where he developed the system. Really, it took the SEC by firestorm. Drew Lock had put up video game numbers. McKenzie Milton. I'm trying to remember the UCF quarterback in 2018. You guys correct me on this. Was that McKenzie Milton or was that another quarterback? Because was that Dylan Gabriel in 2018? No, it was McKenzie Milton in 2018, and then Dylan Gabriel came after that. They were all putting up video game numbers in Josh Heupel's system. You had this system that Josh Heupel runs. He's been running since 2016 at Missouri. Nico committed in 2022. You had a 6-year body of work to go by based on what Josh Heupel's offense does. You also had at least 1 year, a 4-year body of work of him as a head coach and a 1-year body of work for him at Tennessee before you committed. So with all that, I don't understand what type of pro style concepts they wanted him to put in. More importantly, you can't have your cake and eat it too, guys. Look, this offense allows you to put up, as many people are saying on the message board, this offense is designed for quarterbacks to put up video game numbers, not be developed for the pros. You can be developed for the pros at other places. There's 2 ways you can go about this when you play college football. Do you want to be developed for the pros, or do you want to put up video game numbers to boost your draft stock? You can't have it both ways, okay? Most of the time, the quarterbacks developed for the pros don't put up the video game numbers, but they end up being very good in the NFL. That doesn't mean you can't be good in the NFL if you put up video game numbers and you're not developed for the pros. You just might have to sit a year or two developing behind somebody once you get to the NFL. You go to Tennessee to put up the video game numbers. This is no different than quarterbacks that committed to play for Steve Spurrier throughout the 90s, okay? Shane Matthews, Danny Warfel, Jesse Palmer, Doug Johnson, Rex Grossman. Only Rex Grossman had a semi-significant starting career in the NFL of all the guys I just named, okay, from Spurrier. By the time he committed, you knew you weren't committing to Steve Spurrier to be developed for the NFL. You were committing to Steve Spurrier to put up the video game numbers, all right? Nico Iamaleava had to know that when he committed to Tennessee. How are you going to have your cake and eat it too? You can't expect the pro-style offense and pro-style concepts to be incorporated into the system, but still want to put up the video game numbers. That's just not how this works, okay? So I think that for Nico's team to put that out, I'm not saying they're lying. I'm saying that that doesn't make them look better, okay? That doesn't make them look better because there is no way Nico was actually going there's no way Josh Heupel was actually going to do that. Why would he do that? Josh Heupel's we've been very open about this system since we started at Tennessee, guys. As in case you guys don't know, I mean, Dave and I have talked about this for a while. This offense is not hard to figure out for quarterbacks. It doesn't prepare you for the NFL. That's just the nature of what they're coached to do. They are coached to do the exact opposite of what they have to do in the NFL. So when you take that into account, you have to know that when you're committing. And so I'm sorry to TJ Houshmandzadeh. I don't think Tennessee's lying on this because it's very out there that Tennessee, their offense doesn't do this. If you want the video game numbers, you have to accept you're not going to run the pro-style system. That's why Arch Manning committed to Texas and Steve Sarkisian. That's just how things go. All right? Now, again, if Nico doesn't like that, fine. But the idea that you're going to get Josh Heupel to change his entire offense for that is very problematic, okay? And did Tennessee lie to him and promise some pro concepts maybe in the system? I don't think so. Because the reason this doesn't make sense was if you're trying to be developed for the NFL, you think like what one play with the pro concept is going to change this? That's just not how Heupel's offense works or how it operates, and it would limit what you're trying to do. Do you want the video game numbers or do you want the development for the pros? This is where this all comes from, okay? And I think Nico Iamaleava, I think his team, I don't think they are paying attention to the sacrifices you have to make depending on the system you go. Just to bring back the 90s for a minute, Danny Werfel put up the video game numbers. Peyton Manning had the Hall of Fame career playing for Tennessee. Why? Cutcliffe developed you better for the NFL than Steve Spurrier did. David Cutcliffe developed you better for the NFL than Steve Spurrier did. May have cost Manning Heisman. He didn't put up Danny Werfel's numbers, but he was much more prepared for the NFL when he went pro. That's what you have to think about when you think about where you're going to go play college ball. And it really hasn't changed much from that time to this time. Just the numbers are much more out of whack. Okay. And if Nico wanted to be developed for the NFL, he shouldn't have picked Tennessee in the first place. Josh Heupel's not going to do that. He's going to help you put up video game numbers. That's going to get coaches interested in you. But he's not going to really develop you for the NFL. That's just how this works. All right. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. The promo code HOOKED for 10% off. I'm setting. Well, I'm not. I'll leave the poll question as it is right now because it's getting a lot of action. We're at 93 votes. Are you happy with how the Nico Iamaleava situation played out for Tennessee? Yes, Vols needed to get rid of him. 93%. No, this is a bad look. 7%. Also, I just have to ask, like, it's one thing to negotiate more money. It's one thing to ask for more help. Will West just tweeted out, our own Will West just tweeted out that Nico's camp asked about 20 minutes ago, not our own. He works for Sports Animal. He's one of our guests regular. Nico's camp asking Tennessee to change the system for him is so much worse than most of the stuff I'm seeing people get upset about this weekend, in my opinion. I agree with Will West on that. Nothing makes Nico look worse than the fact that his family wanted Josh Heupel to change his offensive system. I don't know what TJ Houshmandzadeh thinks this makes Nico look like, but if you're trying to add in, if you want to throw in that they were trying to change the system and Tennessee's lying and that's why Nico left, and you think that's a defense of Nico, it's not. It makes Nico Iamaleava's side look worse because you honestly shouldn't want to change the system. That's not, again, I just have to point this out. That is not how this works, okay? Sorry. That's just not how this plays out. So I got to be honest with you. Nico Iamaleava is looking worse if he wanted Josh Heupel to change the system. That just doesn't play out. I think TJ Houshmandzadeh did not do him any favors.